Raider Nation, what's good? Jesse Merrick here. Welcome to another episode of the Silver and Black Sports Network podcast. On today's show, we're going to talk about the Raiders' offense. A lot of talk down at the facility this week regarding that group and Chip Kelly. We'll dive into the biggest head-scratching moves from Mr. Kelly himself and what needs to change this week against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. We're also diving into where I think they need to run the ball. That might surprise some of you guys or maybe even piss you off. I don't really know what yet. We will find out. And we're taking a look at three keys to Monday night's game and diving into another week of Raiders Rounders with our homie Matt Peralt as well. All that and more coming your way on today's show. All right, before we get today's show rolling, as always, I want to talk to you guys and tell you to go check out silverandblacksportsnetwork.com and subscribe to our free Raiders newsletter. It's a one-stop shop for all the biggest Raiders storylines of the week. We got the keys to the game ahead, and on Mondays, a deep dive into the game that was over the weekend. So go check it out and subscribe. Again, it is free. You can't get a better deal than that. All right, guys, this week, now there was a lot of talk about the Raiders' offense over at HQ down there in Henderson, and to be frank, got the feeling Pete wasn't a huge fan of it, but when your offense scores less than 10 points 4 times in 9 weeks, ranks 30th in yards per game, and is second to last in points in the league with the highest paid OC, the questions are going to come. When he and Gino were asked what they want to see out of the offense the next 8 weeks, they offered up these thoughts.
Yeah, we need to get consistent. We need to find the consistency. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we were gaga over the performance that we had, and Brock's return and all of that. And I figured we was pedal to the metal. And unfortunately, we come back in this past week. Denver, one of the best teams in the NFL on defense, one of the sackingest teams in the NFL on defense, and that we couldn't get going on them. And so we'll see. Was it Denver? Was it us? Is it Dallas? Is it us? We'll find out as we keep going. But I'm expecting us to get better and more consistent.
I gotta cut it loose, man. Just don't think. Think too much. Just go out there and cut it loose. Play your game. Protect the football first and foremost. I want, the last 8 games of the season, I want to be the best in the league in terms of protecting the football. I mean, that's really what it is. And then just cut it loose, man. We got to score points. We got to score a lot more points than we have. We got to pick it up. I know I've been saying, we got to learn and grow together, which is true. But, now's around the time where it should start to show up on game day. And so, I want to go out there and I want to play, really, really good football and take care of the football, take care of the team, put points on the board, give the defense, a lead to work with and watch those guys go hunt.
Okay, let's start with Pete first. He talked about the offense against the Jags, saying they were gaga over it. How about that term? Well, look at this. On their first 4 drives, they punted, turned it over on downs, scored on a 95-yard touchdown drive, and threw a pick as well coming there out of the half. Obviously, that 95-yarder was great, but the other drives against the Jags there are indicative of their struggles really all season. They start way too slow and wasted way too many good starts by the defense. The first thing I want to talk about today is the keys here and really what needs to change for them. They got to start faster. We hear it all the time in hockey. It's so cliche, but if they keep having starts like that or wasting opportunities to get up 2 scores like they did against the Broncos on multiple occasions, the losses are obviously going to keep mounting for them down the stretch here. Gino also talked about playing clean football. That speaks for itself, right? They got at least 3 more wins if he plays clean ball in the first 9 games of the season. And he also said that he's got to let it rip and not hesitate. The one that comes to mind for me there is that 2-point conversion against the Jags. No double clutch, and they likely win the game. If he's able to do both of those things, the offense will be completely different, but they just don't seem to really have the horses in the receiving core either to really scare a lot of teams. So if teams do take Brock away, it's game over. We did obviously see that in Denver with all those opportunities they had. He only had 1 catch on the night, which does bring me to my next point. You can't let teams take Brock away. They said the Broncos doubled him a lot. I didn't think that was the case live. If you go back and watch the tape, there's plenty of times that he was actually manned up in single coverage as well in that game. So that wasn't always how it went down. You can't target the guy only 3 times. He's elite. Use him. Let him run choice routes, and he and Gino can read off of that. We saw it a ton against the Jags, and look what happened in that game. He went for 127 yards and 3 TDs. Also, this is the kind of a bonus key here and plays off of the first one about starting fast, but you got to get Ashton to 20-plus carries. And yeah, he's tops in the league amongst rookies in rushing yards and attempts as well, but there's just seeming like there's plenty of meat left on the bone with him as well. Too many times Chip moved away from the run when it was working. They got to stick with it each and every game, and especially in this game, I think they need to run behind Stone Forsythe and Dylan Parham as well. Those two guys have played pretty well, actually. The O-line has struggled as a whole, but Stone's actually looked good, especially in the run game. He's actually 8th in the league in run block win rate, and even though Parham is 8th in pass block win rate, which is pretty surprising to me, he's actually always been better as a run blocker in my mind. So get Ashton going behind those guys and stay away from Quinnen Williams in my mind in this one too. Give him some room to run and let him make the first guy miss like he's done so many times this season. And lastly, on the keys here, more on the running game, but you got to be able to stop the Cowboys' rushing offense. This is key. I get it, the Dak, CD, and Pickens and Ferguson, they got all the attention because they're so great through the air. But if you can stop the Cowboys' rushing offense, it actually helps your chances a ton. This is kind of interesting here. In their 3 wins, they average 155 rushing yards per game. And in their 5 losses, and that tie as well that they've averaged just 103 rushing yards per game. So if you slow down Javonte Williams, who, again, surprisingly, is actually 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards per game with this offense, with that quarterback and those receivers, well, your chances of success go way, way up against a high-powered Cowboys offense. So it's pretty simple. Stop the run, and it's a game changer for you. So with my 3 things plus kind of 1, I know I cheated there. Those things are in the book. Let's actually turn our attention now to Raiders Rounders with our guy Matt Peralt. Bear with me. We did tape this one yesterday morning, and I was out and about kind of running around, so I couldn't tape it in the studio here, so my audio might not sound the cleanest as it usually does, but it worked just fine. And as always, Matt, you know how he does it. He always brings the heat.
All right, Matt, we're back for week 11 of Raiders Rounders. Before we get to this week's game, we always got to rehash how things went last week. Obviously, didn't fare too well for the Raiders, but man, you killed it. You said Raiders to cover. They were 9.5-point dogs. Obviously, they did. You said you weren't taking the under, but you said you would flirt with it a bit. And you said if people were going to play that, you would go for the under there. 42.5. Obviously, that one hit. And then the wash, rinse, and repeat, Jeanty, anytime touchdown. How do you wrap your head around, 1, from a betting perspective, how everything panned out for you, and 2, just that game as a whole on Thursday night, which feels like it was like 3 months ago now at this point?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in primetime because 10-7 Thursday, 10-7 on Monday. So we're taping this here on Thursday morning. We have Patriots and the Jets, and that's for the attire, in case you guys are ever wondering where my fandom is, okay? There's been
a lot of questions in the comments, all right?
This is the authentic first number 1 actual uni that I will sport. This is my team.
This is Matt in his element off of the win over my Bucks. This is exactly what it is, actually.
Yes. So hopefully it's 9-2 after tonight. Do the Patriots lose to the Jets? Because I hate the Jets. I'm going to be very upset at my team because I thought they would lose last week, and I bet against them last week, and they won and beat your Bucks. I thought your Bucks would win. So, but back to the Raiders. I think if you are a Raider fan, that game was 4 quarters of nothing but frustration. And the defense played their tails off. I still think there's a question about Bo Nix and what that offense for Denver is going to look like going forward. They have a tough game against the Chiefs, so we'll talk about later. I look at this offense, and you have to be asking some very big questions about Chip Kelly and what's going to happen in the future for this team, because Geno has not played well. The offense has not been innovative, and you had a divisional game where you could have won if you didn't make key mistakes. Bad holding calls on that long run by Ashton, Jeanty. They should have been up 14-0 to start that game.
Yeah.
You had bad just lapses in judgment, bad just mental mistakes being made in that game that were so crucial to the outcome and allowed for a victory for the Broncos. And you could talk about the ball off the helmet for Jeanty, which led to the field goal that won the game. And I understand all the frustrations there. But to me, as a Raider fan, it's danger time. This is a hinge week. This is a tough opponent, and we know what's coming. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be filling up. Their fans are all coming to Vegas here. Allegiant's going to be, Dallas West coming up on Monday night.
Yeah, I think this is one of the few games left on the schedule, at least on the home slate, that people are probably fired up for. You look at it, and it's like, okay, the Raiders do actually have a shot in this one. I think personally, obviously, we'll get to it. I know your thoughts on this one, but it's one of those games where you look at it on paper, you look at the season the Cowboys have had, and you're like, okay, maybe there's a chance. So it's easy to have some excitement around this one. And then again, just a primetime game in Vegas with the Cowboys coming here. It is going to be an electric atmosphere. I really can't wait for that one. So with all of that, man, let's get to the game itself. The Raiders come in as 3.5-point dogs. I understand you love the Cowboys in this matchup.
Dak Prescott in primetime.
Yeah.
Favored at night, 13-1 straight up.
That's a crazy number.
Okay. Dak Prescott in primetime doesn't lose. This is a bad matchup.
Yeah.
I was on the Raiders last week. I am all over the Cowboys this week. I think this game gets away from Vegas. I think this game might get ugly. I don't like the Raider defense against this offense. I think Dak and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens in this running attack, I think they're going to put up a big number. I mean, like my number starts at 30 for the Cowboys and goes up from there. I think you could alt spread this game if you want. I mean, it's 3.5. I think you could bet 6.5 and get a real nice plus on this. I don't think this offense, even with the disgusting play of that Cowboys defense, even with how bad the Cowboys defense has been, they're off a bye. They've made some big trades. They're going to have 2 new players on the field coming up here for them. A huge run stopper coming over from the Jets and Quentin Williams.
Yeah.
And you've got a linebacker that should help in that as well. And I think they're going to key in on Ashton Jeanty. They're going to say, he's not beating us. Geno, go ahead and throw. And Geno's been an interception machine at home. I don't see that stopping here for Geno Smith and company. I like the Cowboys pretty easily on Monday night.
Yeah, and look, like for the most part, like as a just football analyst side of it, totally agree with where you're coming from on this one. I am curious though, because talking to some of the guys in Dallas, it sounds like they could have 4 to 5 different new starters there on defense, and obviously it's coming out of a bye week and all that stuff. But I'm curious how they gel. You know what I mean? Like, what's that going to look like? Having said all of that, we know this Cowboys offense is going to score. Like, you know, to the number with Dak, but just obviously all the weapons they have. I believe it's the number 4 total offense in the NFL right now. I mean, they've been cooking, and I think they're going to be able to get some work on this Raiders defense. The big problem, obviously, you alluded to earlier when we were talking about it, like there's some real questions about Chip Kelly as a play caller and the way this offense has gone. They've scored 10 points or less in 4 out of the 9 games so far that they've played, which is just wild to me. I mean, how in the hell are you going to do that with the league's top paid offensive coordinator? And so if they can't score against this Cowboys defense, new starters, Quentin Williams or not, that spells disaster. So that's why I think I'll kind of push back on the spread on this one. I think it could get a little closer, just simply because it's like this is do or die time for so many people, I think, in that building. We talked about it afterwards as well, last week leading up to the Thursday night game. So I just think it's one of those deals where it's like, if not now, never. And then at that point, that's when you start sitting there and it turns into the one, Cancun on 3 type of thing. You don't want to see that, especially going into what would be week 12 coming off of this one. That would be a tough bill for a lot of people to swallow for sure. But man, this is one of those, like I said, I could even see, like flipping a coin, you could see it get real ugly fast because of that offense. So I'm just real curious to see what version of the Raiders show up. Having said all of that, you like the Cowboys big, which would mean a whole lot of passing by the Raiders offense to try and play catch up. And with that in mind, there's a prop you really got circled in this game.
Yeah, I think Tyler Lockett's going to have a bigger role for this offense coming up here on Monday night. And given the ill play of the secondary for the Cowboys, I mean, it's low. His receiving props are pretty low. Rushing and receiving prop is 27.5. I think he flies over that. I think he has a couple of big catches in this game. They could be trailing by a lot, like you mentioned, and that means Geno's back there chucking the football on top of the fact he gets a secondary they think they're going to be able to move the ball on. So I like Tyler Lockett over his receiving props. I think Brock Bowers gets in the end zone. I think that they're going to try to find a way to get him. As I said, I think they're going to key in on Ashton Jeanty and take him away. So I'm not as high on Ashton Jeanty scoring in this game because I don't know what that defensive line is going to look like for the Cowboys. You bring in an all-pro run-stuffing defensive lineman in his first game in prime time. Yeah. He could really show out. I mean, you heard Sauce Gardner talk about the fact that he couldn't believe he got away from the Jets and got to go on the Colts. If it's a similar situation for Quentin Williams here to be like, I got let out of jail, I can go play football on a team that actually might do something this season. I'm just a little concerned about Jeanty not being effective on Monday night. So I would look to a Brock Bowers anytime touchdown for the Raiders.
Yeah, I like that one. And I do think it's going to be interesting to see because, like even though I talk about the fact that there's so many new faces, at least in particular with the Quentin Williams, like we know he's one of the best in the league at what he does. And at the end of the day, too, like as a D lineman, see ball, get ball. So like it's not like there has to be a whole lot of thinking for a guy like him. They're going to make it simple on him. Even if they're doing stunts and stuff, this is a guy that's been in the league long enough. Like it's not going to be anything over the top that he has to worry about. So in that regard, yeah, I think it's going to be tough for the Raiders' run game to really get going, especially up the middle. And then obviously, like, look, let's see what kind of speed the Cowboys have on the edge to be able to get to Jeanty if he does have some room. We know he's broken tackles at a crazy rate. I just don't know if he can really do it enough in this game to make that much of an impact. I like the move there, especially with Brock too, coming off of a game where he had 1 catch and 3 targets. Like, they're going to look to get him involved so much, or at least they have to, because again, the Cowboys, like you said, probably going to sell out to try and stop Jeanty. And really, at this point, it is just Brock Bowers and Jeanty. You stop Brock Bowers, and then maybe let Jeanty try and win the game, and have shown the willingness to move away from the run game. But I like that with Brock. They've got to feed him, otherwise they have no shot in this game. So that's a good one. Let's get to the rest of the games of this weekend, Matt. This is a fun weekend. We were talking about it before we got rolling here. We got Bucks and Bills. My Bucks off of a loss to your Pats, coming in as 5.5-point dogs against the Bills, who are also coming off of a loss to the Dolphins. That was a shocker.
Man, Baker as a dog. Like,
Yeah.
we get to bet Baker as a dog.
Let's go.
Let's go. I mean, I'm in. Like let's go. I'm on Baker. I think this is going to be a really interesting football game because, look, that was one of the worst losses in the Josh Allen era. I mean, you start looking at the Bills haven't been dominated like that in forever. And that was
crazy.
The Dolphins who did that to them. I mean, that game was not close at all. That was an absolute rout by Miami. I think something's wrong with the Bills. I think the dirty little secret about what's going on here is like, okay, so you can beat the Chiefs and rise up and play your A game across the board because it's Kansas City. But you look at the loss to the Ravens, the loss to the Patriots, the loss to this the Dolphins. It's all kind of the same problem. They can't stop the run to save their life. And I want to see if Bucky Irving comes back here. If he does, that's great. But I think you have White and company. I think the Bills are in trouble here. I think the Bucks might win the game outright. I love the 5.5 points. It's Baker as a dog. Give me the Tampa Bay Bucks here to go to, and the weather's not going to be bad either, by the way. I like Tampa to go to Buffalo and maybe get a win.
Yeah, it's a good spot for sure. I agree with that one. Even fandom aside, like that, this is going to be a pissed off Bucks team. Obviously, I know the Bills going to have a little something to say about that too. But I like the spot. Like you said, Baker's a dog too. Like he's got that nastiness to him. I'm real curious to see how they come back, and getting Bucky back would be massive. For this offense, it's been riddled with injuries.
Well,
we'll see if they can get it going.
It's also the fact that Todd Bowles, this is a great stat. Todd Bowles' defense gave up 28 points, right? That you don't expect that. The Patriots had two massive plays with Travion Henderson go into the house. In games with a Todd Bowles defense since 2023, Todd Bowles in the next game after allowing 28 or more points, he is 6-1 against the spread. Like,
wow.
His defense has come out and they make adjustments and they play when they give up big points. Not typical, especially at home for a Bucks-led defense by Todd Bowles. I expect Tampa to play much better defensively.
Yeah, so Todd Bowles, coming off of a loss, making the adjustments, and Baker is an underdog. Two seemingly locks, if you look at the way history has played out in that one. Again, I like the sound of that one this week. Let's go to what looks like probably one of, if not the biggest games of the weekend. We got Seahawks and Rams in Los Angeles. The Seahawks come in as 3.5-point dogs in this game. Sam Darnold obviously been playing some solid football up there.
All right, this is one of the best regular season games from a betting perspective of all time. All time.
Really?
Listen
all
to
time.
This. Listen to this. This is crazy. Both the Seahawks and the Rams are 7-2 straight up and 7-2 against the number. We haven't seen this since 1990. We have a matchup of teams with a win percentage straight up and a win percentage against the spread at 77% or higher this late into the year, week 10 or later. We don't normally see this. Like, it's one thing, teams are normally good and they win, right? But they don't go 7-2. Like, something has to give here. This is my number 1 and number 2 team in football. I have Seahawks number 1. I have the Rams number 2. The Rams are favored. I'm catching points with the Seattle Seahawks. Darnold on the road has been pretty darn good. Matthew Stafford's playing at an elite level. I don't know if I can bet this game, to be quite honest. This is just a sit back and enjoy it as a football fan to watch this, because it may be a preview of the NFC Championship game, depending on where it gets played. And then who wins the division fight between these two teams. Like, in my mind, these are the two best teams in football. If I had to bet it, I would take the points just because they're very close. But this is an awesome football game. I'm not sure who wins.
Yeah. The number on this one, 248.5. I'm curious to see how that works out too. But man, yeah, that's gonna be one of those ones like again, who in the world would have thought Sam Darnold and the Seahawks, and then even the Rams too. Like, let's be real. Like, I don't think anybody really expected this out of them.
Right.
So yeah, that makes for a fun one, man.
They have dominated. If you look at it historically speaking, Sean McVay has dominated the Seahawks. He's 11-2 ATS over the last 13 games against the Seahawks. So if you go by the trends would be the Rams would be the play as a short favorite at home.
Interesting. Well, and speaking of interesting games, man, this one's big just in the division for the Raiders, the AFC West. We got Kansas City heading to Denver to take on the Broncos. Another close one, man. Like 3.5 points. KC comes in as 3.5 point favorites in this game. Like you said, you may have some questions about the Broncos coming off of that Raiders game now.
Look at no quarterback has owned another team the way Patrick Mahomes owns the Broncos. Like it. Look, I hate Patrick Mahomes. Okay, full disclosure,
A lot of people that watch this podcast do too.
I hate the Chiefs. I hate Mahomes. I hate Travis Kelce. I hate all of it. It's nauseating. I hate the advertisements. I hate all of it. I hate Andy Reid. I hate it all. Okay, he's 18-1 straight up against the Broncos.
Yeah,
he's 18-1. Like,
That's
are you
wild.
kidding me? Like, if you're betting the Broncos, tip of the cap for you. You got bigger balls than I do. There's no way in hell. There's no way in hell I am betting on the Broncos to beat the Chiefs this weekend. This is KC all the way or nothing in this game.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. Look at you too, endearing yourself to the Raiders fans that listen to this podcast, man. You know, they're gonna jump back on the bandwagon now with you after you wore that Chargers cap not too long ago. People are pissed about that.
Yeah.
You know how much you hate Kelsey and Mahomes and all them. They're gonna love that for sure. Again, I am just real curious to see what version, like we talk about, you never know what to expect from so many different teams, especially the Raiders. What the hell version of the Broncos is going to show up, even though they are 8-2? Like, I think a lot of people in Denver even like would say like that might be a very fraudulent 8-2. I think, so I think this is one I agree with you.
Dead
Him
under.
and the Chiefs. Yeah.
This is a dead under game. This is just straight up under for this. I don't think Bo Nix and company score many points, but I think the Denver Broncos defense will keep them in the game. I like KC to win and cover and bet the under.
Yeah, 44.5 is the number on that one. That's going to be interesting, man. And we'll close it out with another big one. Like I said, like there's just like banger after banger on this schedule this weekend. We got the Lions heading to Philly, obviously a massive game in the NFC for Sunday Night Football. The spread on this one is 2.5, and the Lions are actually going into Philly as 2.5 point dogs. Who do you like in this game?
10-0. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff in primetime.
Ooh.
They don't lose.
Yeah.
They don't lose. Look, Eagles are a good team, okay? But there's something still a little off on Philadelphia that I'm not all in on. Going into this season, I wasn't high on the Eagles. I bet the Cowboys to win the division. That's not going to happen, but I like Dallas going in more than Philadelphia. The running game with Saquon Barkley has been extremely inconsistent. The passing attack did enough last week for Philadelphia to get a victory, but it was pretty damn ugly on Monday night. I think this is a game in which the Lions go there and win. I like the Lions to win the game outright coming up, and I think Dan Campbell and company, look, them after a loss last week was the best play of the weekend with them laying big numbers because they're 13-0 against the spread and 13-0 straight up now after a loss. And Dan Campbell and Jared Goff in primetime games don't lose. Give me the Lions.
Yeah, and I mean, Dan Campbell now, calling plays for the Lions as well, channeling his inner Ben Johnson. I'm interested to see what that looks like now, against a team like the Eagles. How does that offense actually look as, another week for him back there? Kind of crazy, though, too, like we said, so many really good matchups as football fans, but some really dominant numbers that you're pulling there in terms of people, from a betting perspective. It's wild.
Yeah, this is a good betting week. I mean, this is a great watch weekend, but I like to bet trends. So trends are your friends until they're not. So like I tend to look at numbers and everyone would say, well, they're due. The Eagles are due. They're due to lose. I tend to like bet on teams that are hot and on streaks, and betting on Dan Campbell and Jared Goff in primetime has been very profitable.
Yeah, no, it definitely has been. Man, I just can't wait. I'm stoked that the Raiders play on Monday night because then that, again, allows us the time to be able to actually watch these games. I'm fired up for it. Matt, before we get you out of here, as always, tell the folks where they can find your work and what you got cooking, man.
At Sports Talk Matt on Twitter. X will have everything. The Daily Juice Podcast 365 every single day, and the Bostonian versus the Book BVB Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube.
You heard it, guys. He always brings it. Went 3 for 3 last week. Big week coming up here. Fun weekend of football. Matt, as always, thanks for the time. We'll catch you next week, man.
Now, hey, Matt actually hit me up after we taped that and wanted to correct his stat on the Lions. Dan Campbell and Jared Goff as a duo are 10-0 straight up as a favorite in primetime games in the regular season. Now, the Eagles are actually favored in this game, so obviously that stat doesn't hold true in terms of the Lions being the favorite entering the game. But get this, Jared Goff and Campbell are still 13-3 straight up in night games, which is still a pretty dang good record if you ask me. It just so happens that all three of those losses in this spot have actually come as underdogs, so they actually don't fare too well at night as dogs. So do with that as you will, huh? But also, a quick note, too, I wanted to get to this, some of the betting stuff. I know it's been in the news a ton with the indictments of some of the MLB and NBA players and all that, and there was the news of the memo the NFL actually sent out to clubs this week regarding prop bets as well. That's actually nothing new. It is just a reminder from the league to their teams, referring mostly to the types of wagers in the NFL that were previously requested by the league to sports books to not actually offer. So you shouldn't be seeing any significant changes to the current NFL betting menus at your books. Having said that, nobody does want to see players get involved in the betting and all that stuff like that. But I did just want to kind of like clarify what that whole was in regards to that NFL memo that you probably did hear about out there. Because again, all the betting stuff has been in the news. Anyway, there goes. Now it is time, obviously, as always, to get back to the Raiders and for my pick. I kept it kind of short and sweet last week. Some of the weeks, I don't know. I talk a lot. I'm going to try and do it again this week. But as you guys know, sometimes you end up kind of rambling along. So I think the Cowboys actually do win this game. Their offense is just too good. And the depth players along that D-line have not come through at a consistent enough pace for me for the Raiders. I also see CD and Pickens having a nice day against the Raiders secondary. Those guys, they have been solid, especially Pickens. He's got 6 TDs. So does Ferguson, too. Surprisingly, CD only has 1 touchdown on the year. But with all that in mind, I just don't think the Raiders' offense can keep pace with those guys and the Cowboys' offense. They're scoring just 15 points per game. Yeah, they did drop 29 on a beat-up Jags defense, and I think the Cowboys have actually been much worse than them on defense, but they do now have Quinnen Williams. And let's actually touch on that as a second. Joe Hoyt, he did mention the fact that he actually said, that there could be like 4 or 5 new starters on defense for the Cowboys coming out of the bye. So there could be, some changes in terms of some continuity and all that. But I think overall they're going to be better. And in terms of Quinnen Williams, like we talked about it with Matt, as a D tackle, it's kind of just see ball, get ball, hit ball. So like I don't think it's going to be too hard for him to, get in the mix on things. And as Matt noted, he's going to be stoked to be out of New York and is going to be looking to take somebody's head off. So it's going to be interesting to see how it is. But again, the continuity could be a factor there. But again, I just don't think the Raiders have proved it to me or anyone else out there that they can be good enough offensively yet, especially against a high-powered offense like the Cowboys, no matter how bad the defense is that they're going against. So that's all that we've really got to rely on is what we've seen from them. We will see how it all goes on Monday night. In the meantime, though, guys, that's all we got for you. Thank you for watching and listening. And again, tune in on Monday after the game for our post-game reaction pod. Until then, take it easy. Enjoy the games this weekend. Another kind of cool weekend off. And then the big Monday nighter over to Legion. We'll see you over there at the field after the game, guys. Have a good one.